It's time to zone in on top flight football in Jamaica. Match week 17 of the Jamaica Premier League concluded with a blockbuster game on Monday night as Mount Pleasant took on Cavalier. Gerard Morrisili has a recap.
So the teams are pretty much ready.
Please welcome.
Seldom has a Jamaica Premier League game this season built up this much anticipation. A true heavyweight clash, second versus third, Mount Pleasant versus Cavalier. And if there was anyone running late to watch this one, they certainly missed a boatload of action. Mount Pleasant starting the game like a house on fire. Ricardo Morris's attempt stinging the palms of Jadine White, who couldn't hold on, allowing Trevante Stewart to score his 14th goal of the season. But their intense start wasn't done yet, with Morris forcing an error in the Cavalier backline, which he himself would capitalize on.
It's by Grave, and it's put across the line for a second. It's Ricardo Morris. Again, a striker on the doorstep. And Morris comes up to get his fourth this season.
Mount Pleasant 2-0 up within 7 minutes of action. The Cavalier fight back started almost immediately, however, with Ronaldo Webster making himself a thorn in the side of the Mount Pleasant defense and bearing the fruit of his endeavor.
And Cavalier, they're going to go back.
Cavalier right back in this one, 2-1 after 10 minutes. And they didn't stop there. Dwayne Atkinson fired a warning shot off his left foot.
What a hit that was.
The 20-year-old then turning that warning shot into a lethal one, firing home on the second time of asking, leveling the contest 2-2 after 30 minutes.
He has finally broken his drought. The first time he has scored in 2023.
And that's how it would be at halftime and full-time as well, despite the best efforts of the joint top scorers in the league in the second half. First, Stewart looking to add a second for the night. Then Colin Anderson unable to get the better of Daniel Russell in the Mount Pleasant goal. Mount Pleasant 2, Cavalier 2. That's how it would end.
After 90 minutes.
That result capped off what was the highest scoring round of the JPL thus far this season, with the ball hitting the back of the net 24 times. Arnett Gardens and Harbourview were the main culprits, both winning their games 5-1 against Moorlines United and Falkland respectively. Dunby Holding also went big, beating Tivoli Gardens 4-1. Waterhouse beat Vere United 2-1, while Humber Lion and Montego Bay United, as well as Portmore United and Chapelton Maroons, finished 0-0. I guess they didn't get the scoring memo. And this is how the table looks after game week 17. Mount Pleasant retaining the top spot, but only on goal difference over Arnett Gardens. Both teams have 36 points. Cavalier, Harbourview, Humber Lion and Dunby Holding close out the top 6 spots. Waterhouse remain in touching distance, while Falkland and Chapelton Maroons seem destined for relegation.
Well, after such a heavyweight clash, it's only right we talk about the ramifications it may have. And for that, our in-house football analyst, Leger Williams, joins us. Leger, 2-2 between Cavalier and Mount Pleasant. Can we say this was an expected result?
It could have been. It could have been. It was always going to be tight between both teams. It was always going to be decided by very small things, small details. And that's what happened. It was a game of mistakes in the end. I think all 4 goals were either a referee decision or a mistake. So it was always going to be close. It was close. And in the end, I think it was a fair result.
Last time you came on the show and we were talking about the JPL, you said that what you noticed about Cavalier is they struggle against big teams. They're still to get a win.
Yeah, they still haven't been Arnett, Mount Pleasant or Harbourview this season. I think psychologically, I think the result last night, coincidentally, was probably really good for them because they were 2-0 down, so they could have crumbled, but they decided that they're going to get back into the game. And I think up until a certain point in the game, after scoring the 2 goals, I think they could see themselves as being the better team. Their coach definitely thought so after the game as well. So it's good for them that they got the result, but I still think in the playoffs they're going to need an extra push in order to really get the title.
Yeah, and this draw meant a lot of things where the points table are concerned, because now Mount Pleasant and of course Arnett, they're drawn on points. Only goal difference separate both teams. So what does this mean for the title race?
It's still sticky. I think both of these teams are going to want to be in the top two positions, not only to get the bye when they get to the playoffs, but also to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League. So it's going to be really sticky. Cavaliers still only 3 points behind them. Harborview might want to do a late run like they usually do, but I do think that one of the three teams, Mount Pleasant, Arnett or Cavalier, will finish out of those two spots and will get the top spot, so be it, in the title race.
Yeah. Leger, we spoke about Mount Pleasant despite being top of the table. Something about their game that is not totally convincing. They are solid, but having never won the title, having played many good seasons but falling short of the title, you can't help but fear for the Mount Pleasant fans that they're heading along the same trajectory. Talk to us about the depth of the squad, though, because when I see someone like Sigri coming off the bench, who, as far as I'm concerned, should be a starter, it does appear as if Whitmore has a lot of tools to work with at Mount Pleasant, and maybe it is that they, just aren't peaking yet until they need to.
It's almost as if he has too many tools. Sigri, as I mentioned, last season was one of the best left backs in the entire league.
Easily, yeah.
And they just have, I'm not sure is what I don't think they recruited, obviously they recruited a lot of good players. I don't think they recruited the right players. If you think about the profile of the squad, which is so important, you need the right players in the right positions. And I'll get to talk about Arnett a little bit later, but Mount Pleasant, Bygrave and Trevante Stewart are the same profile of striker.
Yes.
Then in the midfield, the Mario Phillips and Morris, the same profile of attacking midfielder. Then they have wingers that all do a similar type of thing. And then they have their centre-backs all big, not great on the ball, but good enough on the ball. So I do think that they need a little bit more of a change in how they profile players, and they will need that if they're going to want to really excel and move on and win the title, as you said.
You mentioned Ricardo Morris just now. I don't think he's getting as many goals as he should be getting in the Premier League based on his experience and his ability, but he has gotten back-to-back goals now in successive games. Again, we could be seeing Mount Pleasant just pacing themselves and, waiting until the time is right, which is the playoffs and the knockout phase.
I mean, for their sake, I hope that's the case. With Morris, it's a difficult one. He's been there, done that. He's scored so many goals. He's been one of the chief creators in the league for such a long period of time. He's really a superb player. But I think at this point in his career, I don't think he's given the effort that is required. He started the game, his coach was in his ear, he spoke to him and he started the game pressing, he was working hard off the ball. As soon as Cavalier got back into the game, he dropped back into a shell, started playing deep and just launching balls forward. He didn't really have an impact on the game after the first 10 minutes, really. And for a player of his quality and for Mount Pleasant to want to win the title, he has to have a greater impact than that if they want to succeed. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, he's a profile of player. You cannot have more than one of him in the squad. So when you have Demario Phillips beside him, another player who likes to roam, drop deep, that leaves an entire hole in the midfield, which is fine.
But
if you want
Demario does play with a lot more energy than Morris does, though.
Yeah, he does.
He covers a lot more ground and does.
Yeah, he does, of
more.
course, but he's not a number 10.
Okay.
He's a very versatile player, so he'll pick up balls in certain zones. Mm-hmm. So when Morris and Phillips both drop deep to then try and create from deep, you would then want a striker to drop off. But both of your strikers are target men, so what are you going to do then?
Mm-hmm. Right, well, you have a lot of time for Arnett. You've spoken very glowingly about them on this show. They had a 5-1 win on Sunday. What sets this Arnett team apart from the rest of the team? Why are you giving Arnett the edge over the other teams?
It's exactly the opposite of what I spoke about with Mount Pleasant and his player profiling, which is so important in football generally. When it comes down to Arnett, they have the exactly right profiles in the right positions. They don't do anything crazy tactically. But they have a striker who can drop in and play false nine or hold up the ball. They have a number 10 who's a pure number 10 in Ajuma Johnson, who gets assists, he gets goals. They have a winger in Shai Smith who is more of the striker type of winger who's there, more of a goal-scoring threat. On the other side, you have the hard-working one who will create. In midfield, you have Guthrie who's a 8, you have Purcell who's a 6, and they have a solid back four, a solid ball-playing goalkeeper who got called up for the national team for the upcoming friendlies against Trinidad. They have the right profiles all across. So they don't have to do anything crazy tactically because qualitatively they're just better than everybody else and they're set up right. that's just really it. Arnett are doing a lovely job, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
All right, Leger. Well, what I know for sure is you're going to be keeping a close action on the JPL. We'll be bringing our viewers the very best of the action on the channel, and we look forward to see how long these two teams remain tied on points.
Yeah, we will.
All right, it's break time here now on the SportsMax soon. We'll be right back. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.